From a mother driven to kill her own family for insurance money to a woman whose cries of self-defense were silenced by a prejudiced gavel, these women carried secrets to their final meals and last words. What drove them to commit the unthinkable? And what does their fate reveal about a nation's moral reckoning? Step into their cells, taste their final bites, and hear their haunting final words. In 2014, Lisa Coleman, a 38-year-old black woman, faced the ultimate punishment in Huntsville's Walls Unit. She was executed for a crime that shocked the nation: the starvation and torture of her girlfriend's 9-year-old son, Devonte Williams. The boy's death in 2004 was no accident. It was a slow, cruel end caused by months of abuse. Devonte's body, found emaciated and covered in scars, told a story of pain that no child should endure. Lisa's case raised hard questions about guilt, race, and a system that failed a little boy. But to understand the execution, we must first look back at how this tragedy unfolded. A story of broken homes, ignored warnings, and deadly neglect. Davonte Marcel Williams was born on June 13, 1995. To Marcella Williams, who was just 14 at the time, life was tough from the start. Marcella struggled as a young mother, and Devonte had developmental disabilities that made him need extra care. In 2002, Marcella started dating Lisa Coleman, who moved in with them. At first, things seemed okay. Lisa helped with the kids, Devonte and his younger sister, but tensions grew. Lisa had a temper, and Marcella was overwhelmed. Reports show they began punishing Devonte harshly. They tied him up with extension cords and duct tape to stop him from misbehaving or hurting himself. They withheld food, claiming he was acting out. Neighbors heard screams and banging, but when police came, the women hid the truth. Child Protective Services, CPS, got involved multiple times. In 1999, before Lisa was in the picture, CPS removed Devonte and his sister because of abuse by Marcella. They went to live with relatives, but in 2000, CPS sent them back, thinking the home was safe. That was a mistake. The abuse got worse after Lisa joined the family. Devonte was locked in closets for days, beaten with belts and fists, and starved until he was skin and bones. Doctors later said he had over 250 scars, burns from hot irons, bite marks, bruises from punches. His wrists and ankles had marks from being tied. The women said it was discipline, but it was torture. How did they get away with it for so long? They kept Devonte out of school, homeschooling him to hide the bruises. They lied to doctors saying he was sick or clumsy. Marcella even took him to the hospital once for pneumonia, but they didn't report the abuse. CPS visited several times but missed the signs or didn't act fast enough. Records show 20 reports of abuse, but the kids stayed home. The women isolated Devonte, keeping him inside away from prying eyes. They fed him scraps or nothing, watching him weaken. It was a slow process. Starvation takes time. He lost weight gradually, his body shutting down. Pneumonia set in because he was so weak. On the morning of July 26, 2004, Devonte could barely breathe. Marcella called 911, saying he had thrown up and stopped breathing. But when paramedics arrived, he was already dead, his body cold and stiff. Rigor mortis had set in hours earlier. The women had delayed calling for help, perhaps to clean up or hide evidence. The apartment showed signs of struggle, bloodstains, restraints, but they claimed it was an accident. In June 2006, Lisa Coleman faced a packed Tarrant County courtroom, charged with capital murder for starving and kidnapping Devonte. 56 witnesses, doctors, CPS workers, neighbors, described his scarred body and ignored cries. Her lawyer claimed it was an accident, citing her abusive childhood and Marcella's equal guilt, who took a life sentence plea. The jury convicted her in 1 hour. On September 6th, Judge Everett Young sentenced her to death. On death row at Mountain View Unit, Lisa spent 8 years in a 6-9 cell, reading, praying, and bonding with inmates like Darlie Routier. Appeals, arguing CPS failures and racial bias, failed. The Supreme Court denied her stay in 2014. The execution chamber is a cold, plain room with bright lights that make everything look harsh. Lisa walks in slowly, wearing an orange jumpsuit. She looks around, her face showing no fear. A tray has her last meal: fried pork chop, macaroni and cheese, carrots, green beans, navy beans, sliced bread, pineapple orange cake, and a drink. Texas doesn't allow special requests anymore, so it's the standard food. Lisa eats a little, but not much. She's thinking about her life, maybe about Devonte or her family. The guards are polite but firm. They help her lie down on the gurney, a padded table with straps. They tie leather bands around her wrists, ankles, and chest to keep her still. A nurse finds a vein in her arm and puts in an IV needle. Lisa winces but doesn't say anything. Another IV goes in the other arm just in case. The room has a glass window. On the other side, people watch, reporters with notebooks, prison staff, and Devontae's family members. Some look sad, others angry. A relative holds a picture of Devontae as a baby, tears in their eyes. Lisa looks at them through the glass, her expression blank. The warden steps forward. His voice is clear. "Lisa Coleman, do you have any last words?" Lisa takes a breath and speaks quietly. "I'm all right. Tell them I finished strong. God is good. I love my family." The words hang in the air. A reporter writes them down quickly. Devontae's aunt nods, wiping her face, her eyes full of mixed feelings. Pain for the boy, maybe pity for Lisa. At 6:12 p.m., the execution starts. The first drug, a sedative, flows into her veins. It's meant to make her unconscious. Lisa's eyes close slowly. Her breathing gets shallow. The room is quiet, except for the hum of machines. The second drug paralyzes her muscles so she can't move. Her body relaxes completely, her chest barely rising. The third drug stops her heart. It's potassium chloride, and it works fast. Everyone watches closely. Some hold tissues, others stare hard. A reporter notes the time. Devontae's cousin clutches a tissue, whispering a prayer. The clock ticks, each second feeling long. At 6:24 p.m., a doctor comes in. He uses a stethoscope to check Lisa's heart and breathing. He listens for a minute, then turns to the warden. "She's gone," he says simply. The curtains close over the window, hiding Lisa's body. The guards wheel the gurney away, the wheels making a low rumble on the floor. If Lisa's spirit could speak, it might say, "It wasn't just me. The system let us all down." Her execution was quick, but the memories linger. How did a boy suffer so much without help? The abuse built slowly, starving him day by day, tying him to stop him from getting food, beating him when he cried. They hid him from neighbors, lied to doctors about his sickness, and ignored CPS visits. CPS had 20 reports but didn't remove him again. On the last day, they waited hours before calling 911, maybe to cover up. This case shows failures in protection, race, and poverty. Lisa's death doesn't bring peace. It leaves questions about fairness. In 2013, Kimberly McCarthy, a 52-year-old black woman, faced execution in Huntsville, Texas, for a brutal crime that stunned her community. On July 21, 1997, she murdered her neighbor, 71-year-old Dorothy Booth, in Lancaster, Texas, during a robbery to fuel her crack cocaine addiction. Dorothy was stabbed 5 times, beaten with a candelabrum, and had her finger cut off for her diamond ring. DNA evidence also tied Kimberly to the 1988 murders of 2 other elderly women, 81-year-old Maggie Harding and 85-year-old Jetty Lucas, in similar crack-fueled robberies, though she was never tried for those. Her crimes left families broken and a nation horrified. On June 26, 2013, in Huntsville's Walls Unit, Kimberly became Texas's 500th execution since 1982, a grim milestone. Her story of addiction, violence, and lost trust raises tough questions about justice and redemption. The tragedy began with Kimberly's spiral into addiction. Born in 1961 in Greenville, Texas, she grew up in a working-class family and worked as a nursing home therapist. But by the 1990s, crack cocaine took over her life. She had a prior forgery conviction, serving 2 years in 1990, and a prostitution charge. In 1997, desperate for drug money, she targeted Dorothy Booth, a kind retired professor who lived next door. Kimberly called Dorothy, asking to borrow sugar, a trick to get inside. Once there, she attacked. She stabbed Dorothy 5 times with a butcher knife, beat her face with a heavy candelabrum, and cut off her finger to steal her diamond ring. She took Dorothy's purse and Mercedes-Benz, driving to a crack house to buy drugs. The next day, she pawned the ring for $200 and used Dorothy's credit cards at a liquor store. Police found Dorothy's blood on the knife in Kimberly's home, along with her driver's license. Kimberly blamed 2 drug dealers, Kilo and JC, but no evidence supported her story. Earlier, in 1988, she was linked to the murders of Maggie Harding, a family friend who helped plan her wedding, and Jetty Lucas, a distant relative. Maggie was stabbed and beaten with a meat tenderizer. Jetty was hit with a claw hammer and stabbed. Both were robbed to buy drugs. Kimberly was indicted but not tried for those killings. Her pattern, targeting elderly women she knew, shocked investigators. How did she evade justice for so long? She used trust to get close, striking when victims were alone. Neighbors saw nothing. Her crimes stayed hidden until Dorothy's murder unraveled the trail. In November 1998, Kimberly faced a tense Dallas County courtroom, charged with capital murder for Dorothy's death. Prosecutors presented damning evidence: her knife with Dorothy's blood, stolen credit cards, and pawned ring. Her defense claimed drug dealers forced her, but the jury didn't buy it, convicting her in days. On November 24, 1998, she was sentenced to death. In 2001, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturned her conviction. Her confession was taken illegally after she requested a lawyer. Retried in 2002, she was convicted again and resentenced to death on November 1st. Appeals, arguing racial bias in jury selection and ineffective counsel, failed. The Supreme Court denied her final plea in January 2013. The execution room is cold and plain, with bright lights that show every detail. Kimberly walks in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, her steps slow but steady. A tray holds her last meal: pepper steak, mashed potatoes with gravy, mixed vegetables, white cake with chocolate icing, and a drink. Texas's standard meal since special requests ended in 2011. She barely touches it, her mind elsewhere, maybe on her victims or her own regrets. Guards guide her to the gurney, a padded table with straps. They tie leather bands around her wrists, ankles, and chest. A nurse puts IV needles in both arms. Kimberly flinches slightly but stays quiet. Through a glass window, witnesses watch. Reporters scribbling, prison officials standing tall, and Dorothy's family, their faces heavy with grief and anger. Dorothy's daughter Donna holds a photo of her mother, tears in her eyes. Kimberly looks at them briefly, then stares at the ceiling. The warden speaks clearly. "Kimberly McCarthy, any last words?" Her voice is calm but firm. "This is not a loss. This is a win. You know where I'm going. I'm going home to be with Jesus. Keep the faith. I love you all." A reporter writes fast. Donna nods, her jaw tight, torn between pain and closure. Kimberly's ex-husband, Aaron Michaels, a witness, looks on silently. At 6:16 p.m., the execution begins. The first drug, a sedative, flows through the IV, making Kimberly sleepy. Her breathing slows, her chest moving less and less. The room is quiet, just the hum of machines. The second drug freezes her muscles. Her body goes still, no twitches. The third drug, potassium chloride, stops her heart fast. Witnesses stare, some hold tissues, others sit frozen. A reporter notes the time. Dorothy's godson Randy whispers, "For Dorothy." His voice soft but steady. The clock ticks loudly, marking the end. At 6:37 p.m., a doctor steps in with a stethoscope. He checks Kimberly's heart, listens carefully, then nods to the warden. "She's gone," he says. Curtains slide shut, hiding her body. The gurney rolls away, wheels creaking on the floor. If Kimberly's spirit could speak, it might say, "The drugs took me, but the system failed us all." Her execution, quick and final, leaves a heavy silence. How did addiction turn a woman into a killer? Why did she target those who trusted her? Dorothy, Maggie, and Jetty were vulnerable, their deaths brutal. Kimberly's lies to police and her pattern of betrayal, using trust to rob and kill, paint a dark picture. Yet her case sparks debate. Was she a monster or a victim of addiction and poverty? The unprosecuted 1988 murders raise questions about justice's reach. Her death doesn't heal the family's pain or answer why society let her slide until 1997. In 2005, Frances Newton, a 40-year-old black woman, faced execution in Huntsville, Texas, for a crime that broke hearts and sparked fierce debate. On April 7, 1987, she shot her estranged husband, Adrian Newton, 23, and their two children, Alton, 7, and Farrah, 21 months, in their Houston apartment. Prosecutors said she killed them to collect $100,000 in life insurance money, painting her as a cold-blooded murderer. But Frances swore she was innocent, blaming a drug dealer named Charlie, who her husband owed money. Her case, filled with shaky evidence and a bad lawyer, became a rallying cry for death penalty opponents. On September 14, 2005, in Huntsville's Walls Unit, Frances became the third woman executed in Texas since 1982, and the first black woman since the Civil War. Her story, of a troubled marriage, a desperate defense, and a flawed system leaves lingering questions about justice. The tragedy started in a crumbling home. Frances, born in 1965, was a young mother of two, married to Adrian, a man she claimed used and sold drugs. By 1987, their marriage was falling apart. Both were seeing other people, and Adrian's brother Sterling lived with them. Frances had a prior forgery conviction in 1985, getting 3 years probation. Money was tight and tensions ran high. On March 18, 1987, Frances took out $50,000 life insurance policies on Adrian and Farah. Alton already had one, naming herself the beneficiary. She forged Adrian's signature to hide the cost, she said. Prosecutors saw it as her motive for murder. On April 7, between 5:30 and 6 p.m., Sterling came home. Frances asked him to leave so she could talk to Adrian about their problems. He left. Around 7 p.m., Frances drove to her cousin Sondra Nelms's house, carrying a blue bag. She hid it in an abandoned house owned by her parents, then invited Sondra to her apartment. When they arrived, they found Adrian shot in the head on the couch, Alton and Farah shot in the chest in their beds. No signs of a break-in or struggle. Frances called 911 at 8:27 p.m., sounding frantic. Police found a .25 caliber pistol in the bag Frances hid. It matched the murder weapon, with nitrate residue on her skirt, though fertilizer could explain it. She said she took the gun from home for safety, fearing Adrian's drug ties. She claimed Charlie, a dealer Adrian owed $500, killed them. No proof of Charlie surfaced. Her lawyer, Ron Mock, barely prepared, didn't call witnesses, and later got suspended. Evidence issues, like a possible second gun and destroyed skirt stains, fueled doubts, but courts upheld her conviction. Why did she hide the gun? Why no forced entry? Her story didn't add up, but many believed she was railroaded by a sloppy system. In October 1987, Frances faced a tense Harris County courtroom, charged with capital murder for killing her family. Prosecutors presented the hidden .25 caliber pistol, matching bullets, and nitrate residue on her skirt, claiming she shot them for insurance money. Her lawyer, Ron Mock, unprepared and later suspended, didn't investigate her Charlie story or call witnesses. The jury convicted her in 4 hours, sentenced to death on November 17, 1987. Her appeals, citing Mock's failures, possible second gun, and racial bias, failed. A 2004 reprieve from Governor Perry delayed her execution, but final appeals were denied in 2005. The execution room is cold and plain, with harsh fluorescent lights. Frances walks in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, her face calm but eyes distant. A tray holds her last meal: fried chicken, corn, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a soda. The standard Texas prison meal since special requests stopped in 2011. She picks at it, lost in thought, maybe about her kids or her claims of innocence. Guards guide her to the gurney, a padded table with straps. They tie leather bands around her wrists, ankles, and chest. A nurse slides IV needles into both arms. Frances flinches but stays silent. Through a glass window, witnesses watch. Reporters with notebooks, prison officials, and Adrian's family, their faces torn between grief and anger. Adrian's mother, Virginia, holds a photo of Alton and Farah, tears streaming. Frances looks at them, then up at the ceiling, as if searching for peace. The warden steps up, voice steady. "Frances Newton, any last words?" She shakes her head, whispering, "No." She mouths something to her family, but no sound comes. A reporter scribbles. Virginia grips her husband's hand, her eyes fixed on Frances. At 6:08 p.m., the execution starts. The first drug, a sedative, flows through the IV. Frances's eyes close, her breathing slows, her chest barely moving. The room is silent, just the hum of machines. The second drug locks her muscles. Her body goes still, no twitches. The third drug, potassium chloride, stops her heart fast. Witnesses stare, some clutch tissues, others sit rigid. A reporter notes the time. Adrian's cousin whispers, "For the kids," voice thick with pain. The clock ticks, heavy and slow. At 6:16 p.m., a doctor checks Frances's heart with a stethoscope. He nods to the warden. "She's gone," he says. Curtains close, hiding her body. The gurney rolls away, wheels creaking softly. If Frances's spirit could speak, it might say, "I didn't do it. The truth died with me." Her execution was quick, but the doubts linger. Did she really kill her family for money? The insurance policies, the hidden gun, and no breaking point to her guilt. Yet the bad lawyer, untested evidence, and talk of a second gun raise questions. Adrian's drug ties were real. Could Charlie have existed? CPS didn't check on the kids. The system failed them too. Francis's death, protested by dozens outside, doesn't heal the pain of 3 lost lives. It leaves a shadow on justice, asking who really pays for society's failures. In 2001, Wanda Jean Allen, a 41-year-old black woman, faced execution in McAlester, Oklahoma, for a crime that tore lives apart and sparked heated debate. On December 2, 1988, she shot her girlfriend, Gloria Leathers, 29, in front of a police station in Oklahoma City during a heated argument. This wasn't her first killing. 7 years earlier, in 1981, Wanda shot her roommate Deidre Pettis dead, pistol whipping her before firing point blank, earning a manslaughter conviction. Her life, marked by violence and a troubled mind, raised questions about fairness. Wanda claimed she acted in self-defense in Gloria's death, and her low IQ and brain damage fueled pleas for mercy. On January 11, 2001, at Oklahoma State Penitentiary, Wanda became the first black woman executed in the US since 1954, and Oklahoma's first woman since statehood. Her story of love gone wrong, mental struggles, and a flawed system leaves a heavy shadow. Wanda's life was hard from the start. Born in 1959, the second of 8 kids, she grew up in Oklahoma City's public housing with an alcoholic mother and no father after her youngest sibling arrived. At 12, a truck hit her, knocking her unconscious. At 15, she was stabbed in the temple. Tests later showed her IQ was 69, just above intellectual disability, with brain damage affecting her thinking and control. By 17, she dropped out of school. In 1981, Wanda lived with Deidre Pettis, a childhood friend turned lover. On June 29th, they argued in their apartment. Wanda claimed Deidre's boyfriend shot at her, and she fired back from 30 feet, accidentally killing Deidre. But police found bruises and powder burns on Deidre's body, showing Wanda pistol whipped her and shot her up close. She took a plea for manslaughter, serving 2 years of a 4-year sentence. In prison, Wanda met Gloria Leathers, and they became a couple. By 1988, they lived together, but their relationship was stormy, with fights and police calls. On December 2, 1988, they argued at a grocery store over money. A police officer escorted them home, where Gloria packed to leave with her mother, Ruby Wilson. Wanda begged her to stay, but Gloria refused. At the village police station, Gloria and Ruby went to file a complaint. Wanda followed, saying she just wanted to talk. In the parking lot, Gloria grabbed a rake and hit Wanda's face. Wanda went to her car, got a .25 caliber gun, and shot Gloria once in the stomach when she approached. Ruby saw it all. 2 officers heard the shot but didn't see it. Gloria died 3 days later on December 5th. Wanda fled but was arrested in Duncan, Oklahoma. She claimed self-defense, saying Gloria's violent past, a 1979 stabbing, scared her. A letter to Gloria saying, "I'll hunt someone I love and kill them," sealed her fate. Her lawyer, unprepared and lacking funds, missed her mental health history, and appeals failed. In February 1989, Wanda faced an Oklahoma County courtroom, charged with first-degree murder for Gloria's death. Prosecutors presented Ruby Wilson's eyewitness account, a threatening letter to Gloria, and Wanda's 1981 manslaughter conviction. Her lawyer, William McClary, underfunded and unprepared, argued self-defense, but didn't explore her low IQ or brain damage. The all-white jury convicted her in hours, sentenced to death on March 2, 1989. Her appeals, citing ineffective counsel, racial bias, and mental disability, failed. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board and Governor Keating denied clemency in 2001, despite protests. The execution room is cold, with bright lights that show every detail. Wanda walks in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, her face calm but eyes tired. A tray holds her last meal, a bag of potato chips and a cup of coffee, her only request. She munches a few chips, sips the coffee, then stares into space, maybe thinking of Gloria or her own broken life. Guards guide her to the gurney, a padded table with straps. They tie leather bands around her wrists, ankles, and chest. A nurse puts IV needles in both arms. Wanda winces but stays quiet. Through a glass window, witnesses watch. Reporters with notebooks, prison officials, and families of Gloria and Deidre, their faces heavy with grief and anger. Gloria's daughter, Latoya, holds a photo of her mum, tears in her eyes. Wanda looks at them, then up at the ceiling, her lips moving silently. The warden steps forward, voice clear. "Wanda Jean Allen, any last words?" Wanda lifts her head and says softly, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." She sticks out her tongue and smiles at her lawyer, David Presson, now a friend, who later says she was dancing on the mattress as they ended her life. LaToya nods, her jaw tight, torn between pain and relief. At 9:13 p.m., the execution begins. The first drug, a sedative, flows through the IV, making Wanda sleepy. Her eyes close slowly, her breathing slows, her chest barely moving. The room is quiet, just the hum of machines. The second drug freezes her muscles. Her body goes still, no twitches. The third drug stops her heart fast. Witnesses stare. Some hold tissues, others sit rigid. A reporter notes the time. Dedra's sister Rhonda whispers, "For Deidre." Her voice soft but firm. The clock ticks, heavy and slow. At 9:21 p.m., a doctor checks Wanda's heart with a stethoscope. He nods to the warden. "She's gone," he says. Curtains close, hiding her body. The gurney rolls away, wheels creaking on the floor. Her execution was quick, but the questions linger. Did her damaged mind make her a killer, or was it her choices? The 1988 shooting followed a fight. Gloria's rake attack, Wanda's gun. She hid nothing, but her self-defense claim crumbled against that letter and Ruby's witness account. Her 1981 killing showed a pattern, but her low IQ and brain damage were ignored at trial. Protests, led by Reverend Jesse Jackson, called her execution unfair. Racial bias, a bad lawyer, and no mercy from Governor Frank Keating. Wanda's death doesn't erase the pain of Gloria and Dedra's families, or answer why her mental struggles were overlooked. In 1945, Lena Baker, a 44-year-old black woman, faced a tragic end in Reidsville, Georgia, for a crime steeped in fear and injustice. On April 30th, 1944, she shot her white employer, Ernest Knight, during a struggle in his grist mill in Cuthbert, Georgia. Lena said she acted in self-defense. Knight had imprisoned her, assaulted her, and threatened her life. But an all-white male jury didn't believe her, convicting her of murder in a swift trial. Her story, one of survival against a brutal system, shocked the nation decades later when Georgia pardoned her in 2005, calling her conviction a grievous error. On March 5, 1945, at Georgia State Prison, Lena became the only woman ever electrocuted in the state's electric chair. Her case, tangled in race, power, and desperation, leaves a heavy mark on history's conscience. Lena's life was a constant struggle. Born in 1900 in Randolph County, Georgia, she grew up poor, one of 5 children in a sharecropping family. By her 20s, she was a mother of 3, working odd jobs, cleaning, picking cotton, and washing clothes for white families to survive. In 1944, she worked for Ernest Knight, a 67-year-old gristmill owner with a broken leg, earning low wages as his maid and caretaker. Their relationship turned dark. Knight, known for drinking and a bad temper, began locking Lena in his mill, sometimes for days, and assaulted her, possibly sexually. Locals whispered he treated her like property, exploiting her poverty. On April 30th, Lena went to the mill to work as usual. Knight was drunk, waving a pistol, and locked the door. They argued. He wanted her to stay. She wanted to leave. Lena said he pointed the gun at her, threatening to shoot if she tried to go. In a panic, they wrestled over the gun. It fired, hitting Knight in the head. He fell dead. Lena ran home, hid for days in the woods, then turned herself in, hoping for justice. She told police it was self-defense, that Knight had held her like a prisoner. But in 1944, Georgia, a black woman's word against a white man's meant little. Her court-appointed lawyer, W.L. Ferguson, spent barely a day preparing, calling no witnesses to confirm Knight's abuse or Lena's good character. The trial lasted 4 hours. The jury deliberated less than 1. They sentenced her to death. Appeals failed. Governor Ellis Arnold refused clemency. Why didn't they believe her? Racism, a rushed trial, and a system that favored white men over a poor black woman sealed her fate. The execution room is small and grim, with stark lights and a heavy wooden chair in the center. Lena walks in, her simple dress patched, her steps slow but steady. No record notes her last meal. Georgia in 1945 didn't offer such things to black prisoners. She likely ate nothing. her heart heavy with fear and faith. Guards strap her to the electric chair, buckling leather bands around her arms, legs, and chest. A metal cap is placed on her shaved head, wires trailing to a control box. Through a window, witnesses watch. White reporters, prison officials, and Knight's family, their faces cold with anger. His son Roy glares, clutching a handkerchief. Lena's family isn't there, too poor or too far to come. Her eyes scan the room, then settle on the ceiling, as if praying for peace. The warden asks, "Lena Baker, any last words?" Her voice is soft but clear. "What I done, I did in self-defense. Or I would have been killed myself. Where I was, I could not overcome it. God has forgiven me. I have nothing against anyone. I picked cotton for Mr. Pritchett, and he has been..." Her words trail off, cut short by the warden's signal. A reporter scribbles. Roy nods, his jaw tight, unmoved by her plea. At 11:26 a.m., the execution begins. The guard flips a switch, sending 2,000 volts through Lena's body. She jerks against the straps, her hands clenching, then goes still. The room hums with electricity, the air thick with tension. Witnesses stare. Some flinch, others sit frozen. Roy whispers, "For Dad," his voice low. A second jolt follows, to be sure. The clock ticks, each second heavy. At 11:29 a.m., a doctor checks Lena's pulse. He nods to the warden. "She's gone," he says. They unstrap her, her body limp. A curtain closes. A cart takes her away to an unmarked grave. If Lena's spirit could speak, it might say, "I fought to live. They judged me before I spoke." Her execution was swift, but the truth lingered. In 2005, Georgia pardoned her, admitting the trial was unfair. Knight's abuse, locking her up, threatening her, was real, but ignored. Lena hid after the shooting, scared but honest when caught. Her lawyer's failure and the jury's bias stole her chance. In a Jim Crow South, her blackness and poverty were her real crimes. Her death and her pardon 60 years later ask us who justice serves. The stories of Lisa Coleman, Kimberly McCarthy, Francis Newton, Wanda Jean Allen, and Lena Baker are not just tales of crime. They are windows into a broken world. Each woman, marked by her own struggles, faced the ultimate punishment, death by the state. Lisa starved a boy to death in a home of rage and neglect. Kimberly, lost to crack, killed elderly women who trusted her, leaving blood and betrayal. Frances gunned down her own family, chasing insurance money, though she swore a drug dealer did it. Wanda shot her lovers in moments of fury, her mind clouded by damage from a hard life. Lena, trapped by a cruel boss, shot to save herself, only to be silenced by a racist system. Together, their crimes claimed lives, children, husbands, friends, masters, and shook the nation.